Hello YouTube, welcome to Maths and Science Help, and in this video we're going to cover 5 simple tips that you can use to ace any of your maths tests. Now, without further ado, let's get right into the tips. So, for tip number 1, we have rewriting the formula. Now, this can be for any formula from the Pythagorean theorem to the quadratic formula. What I'm just saying is to rewrite the formula in the equation itself before you do any of your calculations. This can be useful if you're checking your answer, if you have time if you finish the test early and before the given time period is finished, and actually reinforces your knowledge and information that you've learned, because working memory explains that the more you do something, the more you will actually remember doing it. Say, right in the Pythagorean theorem, the more you do it, the easier it will be to remember. Same with quadratic formula, a more complex formula. Yes, it works for everything. Just rewrite the formula at the start of your problem solving question. Tip number 2, analyze the question. So, what this means is to break down the question into what is actually needed for you to find the solution. Now, what I'm talking about is specific information that relates to answering the question, and not just random information that's just thrown about. Say you're finding the weight of a car, but then it's actually said that the car is red. That qualitative bit of information is not relevant to your question. This is sometimes used by teachers not to trick students, but then just to test their intelligence. And also, I can't stress enough how important units are. Units can make the difference between a perfect answer and just, if you have a strict teacher, just no marks at all. Remember guys, it's all in the details. One little bit of information could change how you view the whole question. Now, tip number 3. Pardon me. Check the reasonability of your answer. Now, what does this mean? Well, after you're done solving your maths question, you should actually evaluate whether the answer is reasonable. Just ask yourself the simple question: is this answer a reasonable solution for my given question? What I mean is, does it make sense? Is the answer too big or is it too small? I'll give you an example. What is the surface area of a kitchen table? And then if it says, well, kitchen tabletop, and it says 5 kilometers squared, that's obviously incorrect. So just think about the reasonableness of your solution before finalizing, especially if you have time in a test. Tip number 4, be concise but coherent. One of my maths teachers, she actually taught me to think that the reader has no knowledge of mathematics, but this is to an extent. Of course, the reader has some knowledge of mathematics. In fact, it's most likely your teacher who would probably have an extensive knowledge in mathematics, but this is hypothetical. You should just think that you have to explain most of your steps concisely but coherently, which means briefly but comprehensively, or just in short but with enough information. And again, explain information briefly. You don't want it to be too cluttered, because your communication and justification marks could be tarnished by such a blemish. Now, to tip number 5, the final tip is to check your answer. Now, tip number 5 is the most important tip here, I'd say, because most students, they just end up finishing the test early, and then they think to themselves, wow, I finished early, just going to show my classmates that I'm smartest, ends up getting their test back. No, they did not do well. But what I do is I check each question in detail. Usually I have more time at the end, so I end up checking my answers to see if I did anything wrong. This is also true if you're stressing over a test and you've just finished it because you could have rushed over some very simple detail, and this could have gotten you mark deducted, which could be the difference between you getting an A and a B+. So also, just don't stop if you have time. Just check. Just write a therefore statement just to get your communication and justification up. I'm sure teachers actually check those things. And yeah, that's about it. Just remember these 5 tips and you will ace your maths you will do much better in your maths test. Just remember these 5 steps, and that's going to be the end of the video, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below any questions you have, and I will try to inquire and try to answer them for you. But that's the end of the video, and that's Maths and Science Help signing out. See you in the next video.